are
Yay.
live.
Yes.
Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm delighted to have you as my very special guest, Mert. Hello, welcome, everyone. It's lovely to see you joining in. There's something funny about doing these on a special Sunday with the week ahead. I don't know what it is. It is the joy of watching friends now appear in the line. I can even see many of you chiming in on Substack comments and so on as we get started. It is such a fun kind of experience doing
Well,
these live, and we can see the chat going by. We've figured out so many nifty little shortcuts.
I know you're going to have to share that, but I like this as well because Sunday evening or late afternoon is when I kind of get all my ducks in a row, what I'm planning to crock pot for the week and stuff, which reminds me I forgot to turn the crock pot on, so we're apparently going to have hot dogs for dinner, but you get the point.
Yeah, I've got a soup on the way.
Yeah, sounds good. I see Jane and Linda and Jennifer and good Sunday afternoon, Linda says. Oh, we've got a Linda with a Y and a Linda with an I. So,
Welcome, everyone. It's so
yeah.
good to see you all. We are refining these little tips and tricks of using Substack, and I am such a nerd. I'm always happy to share those little tidbits and absolutely invite any one of you to either do your own show or guess what? I love to have guests. I can have up to two guests. And so you can always just reach out to me with a DM, and we'll see where that might take us. Welcome, Kathleen. It's lovely to see you.
So, what is the trick? I mean, you shared it with me in the green room, but I think this is brilliant. It has to do with these live events on Substack.
Exactly. So the thing is, as soon as you do a live, you end the live, you say goodbye, la 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 la, to the host. I get a little message that says, would you like to post this as soon as the video is ready? Or would you like to have us drop it in your drafts folder? Now, when I did the Roots Tech events, I was like, who would ever want to have it go right away? Of course, I want to view it first. What am I, nuts? And then it turns out there's a really good reason to have it go ahead and go right away. Because the trick is that if as soon as I sent this off, it sent an email. Hello, Bill. It sent an email to all of our subscribers. Lovely. But you know what? We're not all watching our email right away. And some people will take a few minutes before they hit, okay, let me go watch it. It starts from the beginning and lets you see it all the way through. So if I let them post immediately, then people who catch it up on their email will just follow in stride and nobody gets disrupted, which is great. And then the other secret, and you cottoned on to this right away, which is that, yeah, I can go back and update that. So for all of you insiders now, if you happen to see the video right away, as soon as you click that button, and it's really simple, there's just the video happened, and don't you want to download the app, which is the default from Substack? Um,
Perfectly. Yeah,
Hit
sensible.
a refresh, and an hour or so later you'll see my updates, because I try really hard to include all the notes, all of the links, because in family history we kind of speak in links.
Mhm, mhm.
Maybe some languages, maybe some citations, but certainly in links.
I
So I try to catch what I can. And you know what, Mert, you've got some fun stuff coming. I wanted to have you join us because this is a special Mondays with Mert week. What have you got coming?
Well, I have an expert. We try to do a spotlight at the beginning after we welcome everybody, and my spotlight person is Michelle Tucker Jabunko, and she's an expert on Eastern European family history research. And she just this past week published a 40-page PDF file workbook on Galatia in the Austrian Hungarian area. And
Empire, yeah.
yeah, that's the word. But you know how boundaries changed
Oh,
and
yeah.
over time. So, I want people to buy her publication.
Uh-huh.
But I also wanted to talk with her about it. And I said, let's just focus on the map, maybe
Mhm.
3 or 4 time periods, so that you can kind of explain. where it advanced this way or retracted that way. And
Yeah.
we're going to have an interesting conversation with our spotlight person on that area of Eastern Europe.
Yeah, I always love your Mondays with Mert. I have to say, I was not following it initially until I started to pull this all together from as an
Mhm.
extension from where we were with Projectkin here on Substack, and voila. It's just such a richness of
Oh, thank you.
community and experts and the panel. The notion of having that panel gives us a feeling of all getting to know them. So tell us a little bit about all of that.
Well, I'm really happy that we have panelists from countries throughout the world. I have 20 panelists, but I can only take 10 on screen at once and total of 12 in the wings. And everybody has different schedules, but we have people either logging in as attendees or as a panelist from Germany, from Sweden, from England, from Wales, from Ireland, from Germany, as well as Canada, the United States. And so when we've been talking about something like military records in the US, um, it really helps to hear from our guy in Germany, how are the military records kept there? And then leave up there from Norway will say, well, they do it this way, and it's called that, and that's the translation for military records. And I think what that does is help us understand as genealogists each area of the world where our ancestors have lived have either had an ecclesiastical name for certain types of records or a government or secular type name for
Hmm.
records that represent birth, marriage, and death, and pay
Hmm.
taxes, buying land, serving in the military. So I like that component
Hmm.
of the discussion.
Mhm. I think at that point, you and I are of one mind because, as you know, I've always looked at this unique experience we both have on the west coast of the
Hmm.
Americas, stretching from Canada through the United States and someday Latin America as well. But being able to reach both East and West from a time zone perspective and have
Totally.
something that stretches the planet and frankly, our ancestors, as English speakers, we
Hmm.
have ancestors certainly all the way across the globe that way. And I had, until I got very far down this, and so many of you have taught me how much, we share in common as former colonies of Great Britain and, Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, and really islands. And I grew up in Hawaii, so many of these experience former kingdom,
Yeah.
so many of these experiences take us through all of that, and I always appreciate that. We run two different time zones to be able to cover that. You've got that morning period to us here on the West Coast, which is very, very hard, obviously, for the
Even
Asia
me. I don't
Pacific.
want to get up
I know,
that
me too.
early.
It's a secret reason why ours starts at 10.
Right.
But you've got something else coming in those programs as well. Your book club.
Well, we just completed book club talking about mastering genealogical documentation by Dr. Thomas W. Jones. And we had planned that tomorrow we would start on his other book. However, new information has come to light that a new publication is coming down the pike. And so I made the executive decision to pull back and not go forward with book club until that rumor comes to fruition. I have it on pretty good sources.
Yeah,
So,
Peggy, you do.
yeah, but I want to talk about something you did, and it has to do with podcasting. Very smart woman. What is the podcast option that you turned on? Tell me about it on Substack.
Well, I've been curious about this for a long time. There is, as many of us, as you set up your publication, you see that option for podcasts, and it's really a smart move on Substack's part to recognize that for people who have podcasts, Generally speaking, just like having a blog, your best money making option from it is to support advertising. That's the typical business model for it. Substack has shown there's some very nice business models for it to introduce a premium level for premium subscribers as a paid business model.
Mhm.
It's made a lot of sense for the blogging world and now increasingly media. So that was really a big introduction from Substack's part. And now as they have tremendous richness in audio and video, looking to expand now by adding in a way to pay for podcast content is pretty clever. Now, to make that work, they had to integrate it with the established podcasting platforms. I've
Mhm.
never run a podcast. I didn't know how to do that. When I got started, I was like, "Ah, let me do the part I understand first." And I'm feeling my oats a little bit, so I said, "What the heck? Let's give it a try." And guess what? It wasn't hard at all. There is a little step in the back end that has you enable podcasting. In my case, I run Project Kin. Really, so much of it is about inspiring people and building a community of folks that we're all struggling with storytelling. And
Mhm.
as we look at the so many different ways to tell stories, well, I sorted things by the program type. And I have several friends here who are tremendous contributors to Substack itself. And it was, in fact, Emma Cox, who has had the Journeys into Genealogy podcast, that so impressed me to start with that I invited her in to do Emma Explores a series. So before I flipped the switch to turn on podcasting, I knocked on her door and said, "What do you think? Is it okay?" And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't creating a conflict for her. And she said, "The more the merrier.
Mhm.
The broader the scope, the more people who've heard about me, the better." And
Another
honestly,
doorway for people to find her.
exactly.
Yes.
And I, in fact, about starting January, about the same time I started these live sessions, I also turned on YouTube as a channel for my Substack videos. I'd
Mhm.
been using YouTube years back and had a healthy subscription there. But with one sort of flip of the switch, one configuration option, all of my videos created on Project Kin are automatically uploaded to YouTube, and
Great.
then a links right back to Substack. So to Emma's point, the more the merrier, the broader the range. And the dirty little secret is that, Google, SEO, YouTube, there's a thing.
Mhm.
It
Totally.
really helps for visibility.
So you mentioned charging for podcasts as a premium for premium subscribers, and I haven't turned on. I mean, everything I'm doing is free, and unless in the olden days I'd give an all day seminar or something like that. And are you charging for your podcasts or are they free? Do they have to be premium? What's the deal there?
The podcasts work exactly the same way as the blogs themselves, so you can establish what is charged and what
You
is
can def-
not. You can sort that and control that. In
Mhm.
my case, I've decided that what I'm doing is learning and building knowledge for myself that I can go make money on. I can do a book. I can do other kinds of things that are my telling my story, what I've learned
In your way.
in
Yeah.
my way. But I feel as though this whole community, I didn't want to be extracting my value out of access to the community because I'm a nobody, you know. So I wanted a way to create that and
Barbara,
then use that.
God, yeah, listen to me. You're
Well,
well known. In fact, you're going to speak next month at the Genia Bloggers meeting
that's
because
so exciting.
I just got out of a meeting with them and they are so excited. They had about Substack as a possibility, and they've watched a couple of us that have come over under your tutelage, and they asked for a specific guest speaker in May, and you just agreed. So that's cutting news for those of you who are part of Genius
Just
Bloggers.
happened here.
Yeah.
Wrote it down. That's very gracious of you. And Janaea bloggers, I have to say that as a startup entrepreneur trying to like being engineering forward and having a thing that I knew it had a market. I knew there was an opportunity. I so desperately wanted to get some attention of Janaea bloggers, but I didn't even know how. And I didn't know where I was going. I have a whole database of who is and what are they doing. But I didn't have my story yet. I didn't know my story yet. And I think I had to have a startup, have it fail, and find my way to get here. And it's
Mhm.
frankly very satisfying.
Well,
um, yeah.
in fact, several of the members said, they knew that I had done a few videos, some with you, some with Daniel Loftus, some with Dan, who are those last two are my panelists regularly. And but your name is so readily associated as a mentor that is willing to lift up, to
Well,
to spotlight the work that other people are doing. And this is important. We're living in unusual times.
yes.
Somebody's giving us a lot of hearts. I really appreciate that. Yeah. We are living in, we had COVID, we had isolation, then we did more things online. Thank heavens we had a history. It's just a matter of
Hmm.
which platform is the best for
Hmm.
communicating, which you and I and others seek to find the most
Hmm.
reliable free platform.
Hmm. Hmm.
And but you're right there. They clamored for you. So thank you for agreeing. And I
Well,
put more out about it. I literally came from that Virginia Bloggers annual meeting with that request to this green room and now speaking with you live. So
thank
we'll
you.
iron out the details and have a promo graphic and all that cute stuff in a
Thank
minute.
you. Well, honestly, let's be clear. Any reputation I have for that is because of you and your remarkable panelist, Daniel Loftus.
Yeah,
He just completed, and I would encourage it. I believe it's through 3 more days, April 30th,
yeah.
on Family Tree webinars. He did a marvelous recording, a presentation for them about using Substack for your family history work. And it was because he pulled up my page in his example of Substack when he did a
Yes.
talk for all of you. And I don't know if you know this story, Mert, as to how I know Daniel, because it goes back to my startup, which I during the lonely dark days of the pandemic, I signed up for the good for you, Kathleen. I signed up for a trade show, the UK
Oh, yeah,
genealogy show, which
yeah.
was 24 hours, starting at
Uh,
noon in,
I
yeah,
have,
4 a.m. in California, and went for, as I recall, a full 24 hours or maybe even 36 hours, something like that. And it had this funky live interface oh, thank you, a live interface that you could see people moving around and come to visit your booth, and then you would chat with them through
yeah.
a Zoom interface. Well, there I was at 2 in the morning in California. It was dark, everybody was asleep, and Daniel is in his own booth. So I go over there, I say hi. So we chatted for like an hour.
A lot happens
But
when
that was
people
like
are,
3 years ago. He was like in high school or something. It's Daniel.
and now he's graduated and he's working on another certificate. And yeah,
Right. What a
I
star. What a
see it,
star.
the young ones. I posted the link to the webinar that you're referring to. That's
Hmm.
why I was looking away, but I'm pretty used to multitasking and hearing you in one ear and typing on the, yeah. So hopefully people will tune in on that. I think that's a good um, basic primer for demystifying Substack.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think the most important thing to keep in mind here is the pay it forward ethos that we
Yeah,
all learned, especially in the early days of blogging. If there's something that you want to say that's not very nice, take it to X, take it to Twitter. It's like, come Come on, man. Your slip is showing.
Yeah.
Do that in a DM. It's
Yeah.
fine. That's what's there for.
Yep.
But celebrating. I always like that as a verb in this environment. Celebrating the work of others, showing what it is that they're doing that is different, that is welcome, that is inviting and encouraging and stepping things up. I just noticed Kathy Stone just joined. As a matter of fact, we were talking about all of the different people as Project Kin. I talk about what I do as a ringleader because it's not mine. It's all of these wonderful people. I just spin plates. And it's Kathy Stone is our cornerstone, coming with me from my previous startup, where her first episode aired, essentially, till we became eventually Project Kin. And there we talk about the artifacts, the photos, the pieces, the jewelry, all of the little bits and pieces that were passed down to us that then roll into our family history. And we have, of course, Emma Stone, Emma Cox. I guess I can see how I made that mistake.
Mm.
Emma Cox, with her proceeding on her own family history, looking at the tools and techniques that she's learned as a professional, carrying it forward. And then our project recipes that are bringing up these ideas that all of our members, including, I saw you, Linda. Linda Hines did a wonderful one about cloth stories, for example, that's now part of our little ongoing podcast. So, always thinking about new ideas. I have a wonderful series that I wanted to check in with Jane Hutchin before I add to the podcast, of her fabulous How We Memorialize series, which is a series of interviews talking to really world leaders about their experiences, and how everything from eulogies to stories about loved ones, and retelling their stories in the fabulous ways that they can be done today. So I look forward to more from those.
Well, it's pretty exciting. So we've actually, I you taught me this. We're here on the phone communicating using the Substack app in this Substack Live that you initiated. You sent me the invitation, but you before that had given me advice to open up my web browser so I could see who's coming in. I could see the comments. I see Deneen is here. I don't know if that's my Deneen or your Deneen because I have a Deneen that in California.
Welcome, Deneen.
Well, either way, I love you. Because what is important to me is the feedback, things like that. And also thanks
Mhm.
to people who are subscribing to my Substack. I appreciate that. And that's the other thing that can happen spontaneously. If they like meeting people through your Substack lives, now I have a new follower and I appreciate that. So thank you. The You have three featured items in your podcast right now. I remember that first I saw that you turned the switch on for podcasting. And secondly, that switch was good, intrigued me. But then you immediately told me about three different initiatives that are part of it. Tell me more.
So, sure, the way podcasts work in Substack, and it took me doing this to figure it out. I don't turn podcasting on for my Substack. I turned it on for each of my sections. There's sections and tags. That's a whole separate conversation. But
Oh,
you can use any post, can appear in in a section or in no sections,
I'm
but
taking
one post. Yeah,
I'm taking notes.
you're taking notes. And my sister podcast, my sister publication, the Mission Genealogy, where we work with each other to try to give everybody a leg up and guidance on what they need. I did a talk over there for our office hours, talking about sections and tags and some of those kinds of subtle points. But what it does is lets you group things, and group things for presenting them in different functions, one of which is how it appears on your page. And I do that heavily. But also, as it turns out, and I discovered, to group it into a podcast. So I took all episodes in one section and release those as a podcast. So I have a channel, which is Projectkin, and I have shows. They call them shows, which
Mhm.
are each of my Projectkin series. So Emma Explores, Kathy's Corner, Project Recipes, and since the feedback was so good to the post I did yesterday, like an hour ago, I added live.
Mhm.
And for each one that I say, yes, turn on the podcast, then I go through the different podcast services like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I go in and do the configuration for those. And the key concept to keep in mind in any of that is a little bit like a DNS or blogging, in the sense that you turn it on, but it needs to populate. It takes time for the all of this content here to get visible over there.
Yeah.
So it's a little
For the
bit of a
lens.
delay. Yeah. So as is as is typically the case, I find, and when people ask me for support and they think, I just broke it. No, you didn't break it, and you've done nothing wrong. Either the interface is wrong, or in this case, I thought I broke it. It turned out that I just needed to wait because it needs to populate.
It does.
And it's when you understand the concepts on both sides, it makes a little bit more sense. And then you get your link for what that side is, and you paste it in, you tell the Substack interface what that is. And that's how, when you look at projectkin.org/ Kathy's Corner, Kathy S hyphen corner, which is the section for all of my Kathy's Corner episodes, voila, you'll see a button that says Spotify, and you can now listen to it while you're gardening, because I do that.
I love it. So Kathy Stone says learning from each other is so wonderful. And I just that says it all right there. That's a good note to end on if you're ready. We've got 16 people who are tuning in live. I appreciate them being here, and thanks for the it's just scrolling by as to who's subscribing, and I really appreciate that. I
Well,
don't know
it's
what I'm doing here, but I know that I have a person as, as Dear Myrtle profile, and I also have a publication known as Dear Myrtle's Village Square. And
a
my post
worthy name.
my posts go over there, but now I'm going to have to look into whether or not I want to do lives and make them available as podcasts later. A podcast is a different way of taking the content and making it available to people. And
Hmm.
as bloggers or content producers, anytime we can, like, most of my things are 90-minute Mondays with Myrt. If I had all the time in the world, I could cut it up into separate segments and push them out as repurpose as an individual segment. I don't have that kind of time. But
No.
if you're already doing a live and it's recorded, and it, because of the way of the sections that you've talked to me about, they can be turned on so that somebody can listen to it through their
Right.
Spotify or whatever. That's repurposing that content that was very valuable
Hmm.
to Substack, but it's now available on this platform. And that is
Yep.
cool. That's very
Yep.
smart.
Yep. I think and the visibility point. Don't
Yes,
forget
yes,
about that one, because I think I went into one of these other podcasting platforms like an hour after I set up the first one. A podcasting service I'd never heard of. My shows were already there. How does that work? It's the magic of it's an RSS feed.
yep,
Some of you in the blogging world know Feedly. It's exactly what it is. It's
yeah.
simply repurposed with media.
Hmm.
And I think one of the most valuable things to realize is when you get on a plane and you're like, what am I going to do for 6 hours? Well, that's podcasts are brilliant for that. It's like
Yep,
downloading a PDF of a book or an iBook. You've got the whole thing there for you, and you're not dependent on either a live stream or access to the web to watch that YouTube
yeah.
video or whatever else. And that's all there is to it, making the content available different forms. As I like to think about it for Project Kin is yeah, we need to be thinking about the different forms in which our stories will be told, will be remembered, and most importantly, consumed, listened to, and
Mhm.
appreciated because, the kids and their great grandkids.
Absolutely.
And, that's where it's all headed.
There's two parts to this. There are the writers, yes,
I know.
and there are the always wanted to publish a book but don't know how to begin.
Mhm.
Start blogging.
Exactly.
Start podcasting using this and just tell one story. Doing a Substack live. And I hope that you will do another recording or repurpose it on how to taking a step by step for turning on a podcast.
Okay.
Not giving you an assignment, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you so
I
much,
love that because we're
Barbara.
going to do more of these.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. As always, a delight with your Myrtle. And I will be, if you have special links you want me to be sure to include, send me a DM right now because I'll be writing up the notes and including them all here. And if you just watched this and there was nothing in the post, do a refresh in an hour or so because I'll be updating it.
All right.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Enjoy your day and most of all enjoy your week.
I
Bye-bye now.